Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome in, everyone. My name is Chris. With me today is Nathan, and we are responding pretty much immediately after the 4-0 defeat away to Everton here at Daily Wolves. And I'm just going to say hi, Nathan, before we go any further. Hello.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. I hope we're all breathing and well after that.
Well, we're breathing. We are here. They are sighs of exasperation, sighs of frustration, and yeah, I mean, I've got so many. I know we've both got so many thoughts. I'll just say I was watching that game, like everyone else out there, and at times, head in my hands. You know, just not. I'll be honest. I'm not even shouting at the TV because it's just a sense of. Yeah, I wanted the whistle to blow at like 70 minutes. I wanted that game to be over because it was torture. It was just torture.
Yeah.
And some of the things that they were reeling out during that game, even before the first whistle, when they said, "Oh, Everton haven't beaten Wolves for like 4 years," and I was like, "Well, there you go. It's going to be a win for Everton." And then during the game, when they're reeling out things like they haven't scored in 4 games, and here they're scoring like we just make them look. Like Wheeler made Everton look like Manchester City because we were that bad, and yet they are awful.
Yeah,
and it was their biggest win at Goodison Park since 2020, and the first time or 5 years, the first time they'd scored 4 goals at Goodison Park since 2020. That was the one. I mean,
yeah.
You go, Nathan, because I'm just lost. I'm lost.
It's so hard where to start on this one. I think there is countless amount of things that are so disappointing. I don't think every time I think about a different element of how that game went, and if we just rewind it back to before the game, we all were speaking about Everton's physicality. We were all talking about their main thing is how they're going to get in your faces, they're going to pump the ball long, and there was nothing that looked like we were prepared for anything that happened in that game. From the way we were set up from the first minute to the attitude defensively, going forwards, lacked imagination. It was a soulless performance, and I think in the context of this season, we needed our biggest performance. It was probably the biggest high-pressure game, especially off the back of the defeat at the weekend. And I think we've probably produced our worst performance in the one where we needed the best.
Yeah, and today for me, more than anything, there's a couple of things. One is it really looked like there's been other games where you feel like even when we've lost, the players looked like they still had faith. Today, everyone was shaking their heads and looking frustrated and looking vexed, and it looked like it was just everyone looked confused and lost. And on top of that, I mentioned after the last game that for me, when Lamina played at centre back for the second time and he didn't look like we should have played a centre back. I questioned it even before that game that I didn't want to see him there again because that was an emergency situation. And I said that it looked like it was a chance for Gary Neal to just play all of the midfielders because he didn't want to drop his captain, basically. And today we had 3 centre backs, but Totti was on the bench and Lamina was at centre back. And I, even before the game, I looked at that and I was like, "What? Why? Did you agree with that when that lineup came out?" I was like, "What is going on here?"
No, not. I thought it was a back 4 because I saw the lineup originally on Instagram, I think it was, and my first thought was, okay, he's just gone flat back 4 with Doc, Dawson, Bueno, and Nouri. But obviously, when it's been set up, it's set up as a back 3 because and to be fair, if we're going to try and get any positives out of it, the Andre Gomez link up, I mean, Brazilian internationals, they are solid as a pair. So I understand why he wants to keep them 2 in the team. I just don't understand why he's still persisting with something that hasn't worked. And that's, I think, among the multitude of things that's so frustrating, is with 10 minutes to go, Totti gets subbed on.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What? I don't know why that's just come into my head, but
Yeah.
why are you bringing? So we are at that point. Were we 4 or 3? I think we were 4-0 down already, weren't we? At that point,
yeah.
Anyway, stop counting after a couple, and then you bring Totti Gomez on, and he somehow managed to look even more shaky than the guys than Bueno and Dawson put together. I mean, I don't get that substitution. Bueno didn't look like he had an injury, and I mean that's just by that point, I was just so surprised by it, and I didn't think anything else would surprise me in that game. But that managed to top it. I thought he was just going to throw on a bunch of forwards like he did against Bournemouth, but no, we're going to bring on Totti Gomez with 10 to go when we're 4-0 down away from home.
Yeah, and I know that's majorly skipping forward, but that really did fry my brain, because it was one thing where I was like, why? For me, it was just, why is Lamina again being stuck at centre back when whatever Gary Neal thinks Totti did wrong or not at the weekend, I just still don't think you should be playing Lamina out of position there when we saw how wayward he was at the weekend. And just have the strength to drop the captain is my gut feeling there. But it feels like he just doesn't want to do that and is persisting. And then, like you say, the subs, Totti came on, Bueno went off, and Dawson stayed on. Like, why not again? Just if you're going to keep the back, I don't know, but like Dawson was the one who's lacking pace. It looks like he's just completely is shot, and I don't know. I just don't. I was racking my brain like you. I was so confused with everything that went on, and we looked devoid of everything.
And yet again, not being able to defend from set pieces and long ball situations. And it's not even like we've changed our approach. We're still doing this stupid like half zone or half challenge thing. And the amount of free headers they could have had 3 or 4 more goals from those direct situations. You know, and if I mean, I'm sure we're going to break it down, but they're 4 goals. I mean, you get an award for which one was the most shambolic.
And
like it's a bit of a circus.
Let's not forget as well, it was 4-0. They had the ball in the net 6 times. 6 times.
Oh yeah.
And if it wasn't for VAR, it would be 6-0. I mean, and they looked like they could score more. I mean, they blazed it over the bar 2 or 3 times when it was a golden opportunity. I haven't checked the XG. I've got the shots on goal stats and everything. But I mean, they just looked literally like they could score a gazillion goals today. And they had 13 shots to our 6. But it looked like they could have scored all 13 of them pretty much. It felt like that. It just felt completely one way. And somehow we had 55% possession. I don't know where, because it didn't feel like it, I'll be honest with you. And every time we got the ball, it felt like we just gave it away immediately.
And every time Everton had the ball in any good positions, and what they did was so direct. Every time they got it into our defensive third, they looked like they were going to score. They looked like they were going to get a shot on goal. They looked like something was going to happen because we just looked so leaky. I don't even know how to find the words for this, but we're like, no words. We're just so bad at defending. It can't be. I don't know how to explain it. We're scoring goals for the opposition. You know, we're literally as solid as a bunch of twiglets at the back. Like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, the first goal, Ashley Young free kick. Merry Christmas. We made him, I believe, the oldest scorer of a free kick in the Premier League history. So another record against us, which is just fantastic. You're welcome. And as I say, the first time that Everton have scored 4 at home in like 4 or 5 years. So again, you're welcome. These are great Christmas gifts that we're giving away to everyone. And we, Sarr, bless him, I gave him a little bit of benefit of the doubt from the weekend in the fact that, a couple of the penalties weren't his fault. And so Gary Neal stuck with him. Fair enough. But that free kick situation with the wall, I mean, that's your bread and butter, right?
What are you doing?
Lining up the wall, not then having to moan afterwards that they're not in the right place. I mean, that's foundational.
No, that is under sevens stuff. You set it a tiny bit outside the post because footballs can be,
Curved.
whipped round, curved. Yeah, they're oval floaty things. Just set a wall. It's so basic, and that's the thing that's the most worrying about all of our defensive performances this season is how basic these mistakes are. We can have debates about like the complexities of zone or not zone or 3 at the back, 4 at the back, but this stuff is get goal side, don't mess about with it in dangerous areas, mark your man. This is stuff that I'll literally be trying to coach under nines tomorrow evening at football.
Yeah.
And it's just over and over again, which explains why we've conceded. It's 36 now this season.
Yeah.
It's eye-watering.
It's absolutely terrifying. And I mean, the second goal for Mangala, I mean, it's set piece second phase essentially, because it breaks to him on the outside of the box. Several Wolves players charged towards it, and I don't know if you noticed this, but to me, what was the weirdest thing was about it, because like Brenner was one of the ones that got closest. They all run towards it, and then they all kind of dodge out of the way. Everyone leans as if to like put a leg up, but they actually lean their bodies away from where the ball is going, not towards where the ball is going. It was the oddest thing. If you look back, I was just like, why is everyone? It looked like they were scared of the ball almost, then like leaning away from it rather than towards it. I was just confused.
And but the bit that's not that gets me on that one as well is the ball's come in, and obviously it's come out to Mikalenko or the first player who's had an effort, and then it's obviously bounced back out to Mangala again. So there's a couple of occasions there for the midfielders and the other attacking players to push out from that line. Yet we're still stuck on the 6-yard box as a bank of 11 players. That is basic shape stuff. That's stuff that they are practicing in training, or clearly not. You practice a set piece situation where defender gets the header away and then you push up. It's just what you do because you don't want to be on your own goal line. It's not a good position to be in. So, I just don't understand why no one was pushing out. It is just so basic. What are we going to do if the ball ends up outside the box for them? Are we just going to stay on the 6-yard line? Like, cool, we're just chilling here. We've got a better chance of scoring and defending that position, have we?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's insane.
And so yeah, the first half was 2-0. Before we get on to, I mean, with those two atrocious situations, before we get on to the other goals and the second half and the aftermath, I'll just take a moment to brighten the misery, I guess, to remind everyone that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
Every day.
So at halftime, Nathan, I'm thinking, all right, I mean, we are woeful, but there's still, again, there's the remotest possibility, because we are or were like, the 5th highest scorers in the Premier League, whatever it is, that we can, and we've come back from, bigger deficits before. We could still fight for a draw potentially with the right team talk, with the right, change in formation or whatever we do. And then I don't know what I don't know what's happened at halftime, but I mean, Lamina was pushed forward, right? It seemed, and then they've gone to 4 at the back, but it made no difference. And if anything, we just seemed more atrocious.
The thing is with the lack of basics and the defence not being able to do the basics at the minute, it doesn't matter if you've got 4 at the back, 5 at the back, 10 at the back, doesn't matter. If you've not got players that are able to challenge for headers, if you haven't got players that are able to pick up Tarkowski and Calvert-Lewin, these guys, like, you see them from about a kilometre away walking up to the box for the corner. They're huge. Just pick them up. It's so simple. So no matter what formation we've got, if we can't do that, we're going to concede 4 every week, which is what we are pretty much doing at the minute.
Yeah.
So it's Yeah, and I don't know what's gone on for the third. I mean, Dawson's in a rich vein of scoring form.
Yeah.
He's on a hat trick.
I mean, wow. Yeah, poor old Dawson. I mean, 2 own goals today, 49th minute. I mean, again, it's a ball into the box, and it's just another basic goal scored against us, right? And then just when you think it can't get any worse, 72nd minute again, Dawson own goal. I mean, I've just forgotten his name. Their striker, what's his name? That has he's had 2 or 3 goals disallowed in this one game alone.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him, and Dawson's probably praying that they actually gave him the goals, because they should do, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it should have been more. Quite frankly, Everton should have won by more.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times that they were able to just easily wander into our box, and half the time it was from situations that they should never be getting out of. The one that springs to mind, I don't know why I keep focusing on Totti Gomez, but they've got Totti Gomez with Broher, I think, who came on, their striker, in the corner flag, back to goal, Ait Nouri and Totti Gomez around him. That is the ideal situation defensively. He can't go anywhere, or can he? And then it just sort of, they mess it up. And then they're in the box and they square it, and Harrison luckily doesn't have a right foot and smashes it over the bar.
Well, yeah.
But it's just like, that was one example of a long ball, us not being able to deal with it, them getting out of space that they should never be getting out of, and create an opportunity out of it. And it was like that for the whole 90 minutes. And as you said, we were quite lucky to come away with only 4.
Yeah, I mean, like in that situation, it seems like a lack of spatial awareness, and everyone getting so focused on one thing. Like you say, Totti's got the guy pinned, essentially. Ait Nouri comes to join in, but doesn't pay attention to someone else coming in behind him, and the ball's flicked behind, and so he's free. There's no sense of awareness around the danger, of who's overlapping, who's tracking back, and I just like you say, whether it's 4, whether it's 5, it's making no difference.
I mean, look, I'm sure we're gonna get onto this, but everyone's obviously calling for Gary O'Neill to get the sack, and lots of the fans that were there were aiming some of those chants towards him about getting sacked in the morning and that sort of stuff. The one thing that I do think, obviously, he does pick the team, and he's the one who's kind of orchestrated all of these poor performances. But the players, I mean, today, obviously at the time of recording this, were woeful. They were really, really bad. And when it's basic stuff like, as you said, spatial awareness, or follow the guy who you're marking, that sort of stuff, that can't go down to Gary O'Neill. The certain elements of substitutions and tactical changes, and I understand that he obviously sets the tone in the dressing room, but that sort of basic stuff, you've got to have a bit of pride. Surely, you're a Premier League footballer. You've got to have a little bit of, pride, I guess.
Well, yeah, you do, and we said at the weekend, there's certain things that the manager can't account for. You can't account for Dawson not looking up and passing it back to the goalie in a place where he really shouldn't. And all season long, players have made various mistakes that you just can't account for. But there still remains that consistency issue of set pieces, like you say, pushing out, and just the tactical formations, and this inconsistency with who's played in the back, what formation we're going to play, the inability to choose what the centre midfield is going to be, because I genuinely feel there's this decision of I can't drop the captain going on. Today just validated that for me, because there was no need for Lamina to be in that spot again. Absolutely not.
No.
And just so outside of those personal errors that people are making, this has gone on. This is me saying this. This just feels like something needs to change, because it's now getting ridiculous. We are becoming ridiculous. We are ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, the pundits and everyone is talking, sort of the neutrals, talking about how excited we are to watch because of how many goals we've been scoring as well. And to be fair, there are always goals in the games that we're involved in. But today the strikers had an off day. right? Like, I mean, scoring 2 against Bournemouth when we had a shocking performance is good, or good attacking performance from them, I should say. Against Everton, they were bullied at times and didn't look as good going forwards. But that's when, as a striker, you're hoping that your defenders and midfield are putting in a good performance to keep that scoreline even and make it one of those scrappy games. That's fully what I was expecting or hoping for, I'd say. In the end, it just turned into a complete schooling of how to play basic football.
Well, yeah.
It's just constant basic stuff. The amount of times that we saw our centre halves crossing paths or crossing each other when they're going to sort of cover the opposite channel. That's just like where are you going?
Yeah.
That's not your area of the pitch.
Yeah.
So there's countless amount of basic errors in there, and yeah, I did feel sorry again for Strand Larsen, to be fair, because he was isolated up top. And the centre half roughed him up, and they did a good job of him, to be fair, but he really didn't have any help. And Cunha again was not almost non-existent at times.
Yeah, and like you say, there was times when both centre backs going for the same person. They were almost like one was a shadow of the other at points, so leaving massive acres of space for someone else to run in behind, and it was just really confusing me. But at times this season, the strikers have overachieved, if you like, with the amount of goals they've scored and the forward play. There's going to be games where they don't. They're not always going to score as many goals as they have been. So we can't rely on that week in, week out. It's a tough league. Even against Everton, you can't rely that we're always going to score 2-3 goals to beat a team. We just can't be giving away goals like this.
We're not a team that can rely on outscoring opposition teams because we're conceding about 15 a game. So, yeah, shut up shop first. And that's obviously Sean Dyche has worked on that.
Mm-hmm.
They had 4 really poor games back to back, and they've obviously identified this one, same as us. It's a massive 6-pointer, and they clearly worked on their solidity defensively because that's all it was. They were just solid. Everton are a basic. They've got a basic squad, right? They don't have a huge amount of internationals. They don't have a massive amount of. A lot of the players that they've got are rejects from other clubs and decent sort of Premier League journeymen. So they're not a team that we should be afraid of. And 2-3 seasons ago, and as you were saying, our record against Everton recently has been pretty good. Purely for the reason that as a club, I think our squad and players have been of a high caliber and producing good performances. But this season, we're seeing a complete switch of that, and I don't think we've got to give them some credit because they've just completely battered us.
Yeah, and maybe in a day or two the thoughts I'm having will be more coherent, because right now it is a little bit of just a rambling vent because we've just literally just watched the game, and it's all very frustrating. I think the biggest thing really that we've seen that we will see as a result of this is obviously everyone pretty much now, I think across the board, is saying that is based on this. That's 2 games back to back conceding 4 goals, where both times they could have scored more. Without VAR, they would have scored more today. Add to that, before the unbeaten run of 4, some of the other performances where we've just shipped so many goals. I mean, it is surely now this is the time where most people are thinking there's got to be a change made. This is the end, right? I don't see how a club can go on this run of form in such massive games and then not make a change at the top. Surely, what do you think? Do you think that this is the end for Gary O'Neill?
If this isn't the end, then what is? Like what more? Another couple of games where we give the opponents 3, 4, maybe give them 5 next time. I don't know. Like what else? What is Jeff Shee and whoever else is making those decisions? What are they envisaging to be better? I get that they might be waiting or wanting to have the right guy to bring in afterwards, but there's a few decent managers out there. I think we covered it in a previous episode that are out of a job, and the new manager bounce is a thing.
Yep.
When the manager is someone who's organised and coming in with fresh ideas, it does revitalise teams, and we're getting to a point where there's already now a 3-point gap, right, between the bottom three and the 17th. So we need to really, really think about when it is that there's a point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if that gap keeps growing, because ourselves, Ipswich and Southampton have comfortably been underperforming.
Yeah.
I mean, they can get a bit of a sort of less slack because they've just come up, but yeah, it's our performance levels have been absolutely shocking. So, I mean, I'd have to say there's one small positive that I managed to get out of the game. I don't know if you heard it, but it was some of the chants that were going around. The Wolves fans were coming up with some of the old school chants. So we heard a bit of Dicko Afobe Sacco. We heard a bit of We've Got Neves. Will like that one.
I heard this one of the Steve Ball songs at the moment at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. We had Si Senor, obviously. We even had this shows. We still haven't. We might be going down, but we're having a fun time. Ebanks Blake is Wanderers number 9. I haven't heard that in so long. But yeah, so all of that was coming out. I just thought I'd try and brighten things up with that one.
Yeah, I mean, as always, fair play to the away fans, and I mean, if you've paid all that money today to go midweek to Everton to watch that game and that performance from your team, I mean, I'm sorry, I feel so bad for you, because it's a lot of money, and that's why these decisions have even more impact, right? Because this summer, the prices went up. That was that was a huge deal anyway, and now people are paying, essentially Champions League prices for this performance, and that's why these
for championship performance,
exactly, and that's why these performances are just unacceptable across the board. And I've been arguably the most kind of, I won't say a defender of Gary Neal, because I don't think I've necessarily defended him, but the most like lenient with how long we wait. But for me,
that's a fair statement. It's a fair statement.
But for me, that performance on top of the previous game, and just the fact that we're not seeing improvements in some of the areas we mentioned in terms of like just set pieces and basic foundational stuff, and this inescapable inability to just solidify the team into a set formation. I almost feel like maybe he's he's got this thing of changing the team so it can shift in the middle of a game to like a 4 and a 3 and whatever it is, and the teams do. I sometimes think maybe it's just too much, just maybe they're almost too lost because they don't know week in, week out what their role is and what they're meant to do. And I think it almost does call for someone, if it's not someone, like Potter or whoever, to come in afterwards if they make the decision to move on from Gary O'Neill, even if it is someone just like David Moyes for a season, just to say like, look, till next summer, keep us up, and come in and do because he's someone old school, just come in and do the basics, like solidify and do what you need to do. And if you can keep us up, great.
Look, I mean, if we found out that we are shocking at defending set pieces 2 months ago, maybe longer. So if it was new problems, if each week, this time we're getting beat by long balls, next week it's set pieces, the week after that they're cutting through the midfield. If it was a different problem and we were always changing and trying to patch things up, and actually teams were, beating us tactically, and each time there was a different weakness, you'd go, okay, well, at least we can see that there's, I don't know where I'm going with this, but at least we can see that there's somewhat some change. But for 2 months now, we've known that we're bad at defending set pieces. We've known this is something that is so blatant for everyone to see, and opposition teams are obviously setting up to try and exploit that. So why are we not setting up to defend it? Like, I don't. This is where I don't get it. What is the coaching that's going on? What is the instruction behind and the application of it from the players? Surely when they get to corners, they're like, right, we need to switch on here, boys, because we've been bad at defending these in previous weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually looks like they all say to each other, "Oh, just relax here, guys. We never concede from these ones." Like, that's genuinely the body language and the attitude that we're watching. When a cross comes in and the first ball gets cleared out, push out. It's basic, And for players that are so experienced, like Dawson in there and like Doherty, these guys know that. It's when they need to step up. It's where Sarr, who's also an experienced goalkeeper, we can't keep making excuses for him. He needs to step up. When they've got a free kick on the edge of our box, set your wall up so that the wall can stop the free kick.
Yeah.
Maybe, wild shout.
Before a final few rants and points, I need to just, calm us down for a second and take a moment to tell everyone that, here when we were deciding how we were going to vent and rant at you, every time we release an episode, we did spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. Unlike our performances. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Yeah, I think, it's this thing of players. How are the players? We saw that new manager bump you spoke about last season with Gary O'Neill, arguably. Obviously, there's a lot of doom and gloom around Lopetegui. That doom and gloom lifted. Gary O'Neill got the high of that. It feels now more than ever like Gary O'Neill got the high of the gloom lifting from Lopetegui and the morale boost that new manager bump brings, because he was very much a confidence person. But now, it feels like we mentioned the other day, if you're Bueno and Totti and being benched for a midfielder to come in and play your spot, how is that making you feel? And then you like we mentioned that substitution earlier, Bueno comes off and Lamina's still there. How is that? How are the centre backs feeling that we're losing by that many goals and he's still keeping a midfielder there over a centre back? And I get that it's not all on Lamina, but my point is about how does that affect the cohesion of the squad and who's playing, how they feel, and how does Lamina feel about being made to play over the position of the centre back? Obviously, publicly, he's saying it's fine, but he's looking exasperated. How does that feel as captain to be thinking, looking at the bench and thinking, there's two centre backs on there, and I'm playing here?
Yeah, it must be such a toxic place, that change room at the minute, and it's crazy how fast things can change in the Prem, and how we've gone. We're 3 or 4 episodes ago when we were talking off the back of a 4-game unbeaten streak. That feels like years ago now.
But like you said at the time,
and then within 2 games, you
said at the time, I'm pretty sure you said something like, "I'm worried that some of those performances were flukes," and more than ever, that's seeming true now. To give you credit there, because it does feel like you've got this many quality players in your, because there is, individually there is quality throughout the squad, enough 30-40 performances at some point. Whoever you are, you're going to get some wins or some draws, just through the sheer percentages, right? Because you've got decent players who can score a worldie from 25 yards, whatever it is. You've got things that will happen, but the consistency is showing through that maybe though that is just a fluke.
Yeah, and I think that the main thought in my head right now is things have to change before no matter what we do, we won't have enough time to actually make that change. I think now it's like time is of the essence, and we really need to start thinking, and as a club they need to make decisions so that whoever does come in, if they do come in, has the time to change things, because we're coming on to halfway through the season now, and as we're saying, there's already a 3-point gap. The more that gap gets bigger, the more the toxicity around the club is just going to keep getting fueled. And at the minute, rightfully so, as fans, we're all very unhappy.
Yeah.
And it's being heard, and it's got sort of that reminiscence of the sort of 2012, 2013 years, when how toxic the club was and how badly we were doing in the Championship and the Premier League before that. And I just really hope it doesn't turn that sour. And if they are going to sack Gary O'Neill, make sure there's someone else to come in, because, you know, the guys that are with him are also part of the problem. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, by the time you all hear this, as we record it tomorrow morning, this is going to go out on Thursday morning. I mean, who knows if by then we will have heard any news, or by the time you listen to this, maybe there'll be some news from the club on, well, either silence with no news or a decision being announced. To give some precedence to that, I mean, in our WhatsApp group, I posted a picture of the corner flag like halfway through the second half of the game today, because just as a sign that I'm like, no, it's enough. So yeah, I think like a lot.
You actually posted 4 different corner flags, didn't you?
You're welcome.
That's how much you wanted him gone.
But I mean, come on, in the last like month or so alone, whatever it is, you know, we've conceded 5 to Brentford, you know, and then before that, obviously the 6 to Chelsea, 4 to Bournemouth, now 4 to Fulham. I mean, it just doesn't warrant thinking about. So I'm now, there's got to be something done. So maybe we'll hear something tomorrow. Maybe by the time we next get together, Nathan and Will, you know, maybe who knows what the future holds. It's got to be upwards. Surely it has to be upwards from here. No.
Surely. Surely the only way. Well, I was going to say the only way is up, but we're not actually bottom.
No, that's true. So yeah,
the only way.
Room to go.
To go.
Any final thoughts you want to add, Nathan? Because I feel like I could just ramble at everyone for a lot longer with absolute nonsense, but it won't be very coherent.
Ebanks Blake is Wanderers number 9. That's all I got to say.
To be fair to him, he was and fantastic, but as we mentioned, I think Strand Larsen is, you know.
Strand Larsen is better than Ebanks Blake. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm not trying. I'm just trying to
lighten,
glorify the atmosphere of that chant today.
I will say, I was so gutted that there was a chance, like I think in the first few minutes before they scored their first, where Ryan Aït-Nouri got a ball into Larsen like really early on, and he just kind of caught it on his ankle or his shin, and it went completely like just wayward, and it was. Of all, like, he's been banging them in those moments so well, and you just thought, well, for a moment I was like, any other time he probably would have scored that, and then that one moment was it, and then it was all gone. That was that could have been that was the turning point that was like, no, this night is not going to work. But anyway, guys and girls, it's time for us to go to bed, get some sleep, and hopefully dream. Maybe we'll think it was all a dream by the time we wake up tomorrow, by the time you listen to this, and keep an eye on those Wolves social feeds for some news, perhaps. Who knows? And
who knows?
Despite the fact that there is room to go a couple more places down the table, I will just try and end it with the way I always do, to remind everyone that out of darkness cometh light.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.